Hello everyone, this is Xingye. Today me and my group members will compare Korea and Australia in different ways. First, I'm gonna explain how has globalization influenced the political economic. The impact of globalization on the South Korea economy as well as its perception by the rest of the world has been significant. A country's political economy comprises three systems: the economic system, the political system, and the social system, which work together to ensure effective governance. The foreign direct investment has found a home in South Korea, allowing foreign companies to establish branches and consequently leading to increased employment opportunities. Furthermore, South Korea's economic development has also seen growth due to the heightened trade with nations facilitated by globalization. In addition, South Korea's active participation in the World Trade Organization has enabled it to promote development and stability. Moreover, globalization has raised awareness about pressing issues such as climate change and human rights concerns. As a result of this increased awareness, there is a growing demand of government actions in addressing these challenges. Globalization has also assisted South Korea in sharing its culture with the world in the form of K-pop, dramas, and technology. These things have improved their global image, and cultural exports with the Western world has also risen. The importance of education and skill development for maintaining competitiveness in the global economic has been highlighted by globalization as it has made it necessary to abide by international environmental regulations. Additionally, the fast growth of South Korea's technology has been expedited by its membership in international networks for research and development, particularly in industries like electronics and telecommunications. Next, I'm gonna explain the legal challenges in South Korea for an Australia firm. There are several legal challenges that can hinder an Australia company's business expansion process in South Korean market. In order to enter into the South Korean marketplace, an Australia firm needs to tackle its complex and evolving regulations. The regulations are constantly being updated, therefore, it becomes difficult for an outer firms to comply with them. Other challenges that an Australia firms would face in South Korea market is the language barrier, and it can hinder their business operations while dealing with consumers. Reports suggest that 30% of outer organizations face huge difficulties in dealing with customers due to the language barrier. It is important to note that intellectual property infringement is still an issue, although South Korea has made progress in this area. Hence, Australia enterprise must take the necessary actions to properly register and enforce their IP rights. Additionally, the processes of registering a firm, obtaining license, and meeting regulatory requirements may differ from those in Australia and South Korea, which can also hinder the expansion process. The South Korea labor law are very imperative and strict, and any disobedience in determining those regulations can lead to huge issues for an Australian firms. Therefore, it is necessary for them to go through the regulations effectively in order to do the rest of the work. Additionally, South Korea tax laws could differ from Australian ones in various terms such as tax rates, allowance, reporting requirements. Hence, it is also essential for Australian firms to understand the taxation implications of South Korea, therefore expanding their business.
Thanks for Giles speaking. I'm Zeyo, and I'm going to talk about South Korea's level of development. I will use GNI and PPP to measure economic development level, use HDI to measure human development level. Gross national income (GNI) is the total amount of money earned by a nation's people and business. According to the data from the World Bank, South Korea's GNI in 2022 was $35,990 per capita, a 2.27% increase from 2021, and ranked 33rd in the world. This is a high feature that shows a strong economy and a relatively high standard of living. Purchasing power parity (PPP) takes the relative cost of local goods, service, and the inflation rates of the country into account, rather than using international market exchange rates, which may distort the real difference in individual income. According to the data from the World Bank, South Korea's PPP in 2022 was 45,467 and ranked 32nd in the world. This further confirms Korea's strong economic performance. Human Development Index (HDI) is a summary measure for assessing long-term progress in the three basic dimensions of human development: a long and healthy life, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living. According to the United Nations Development Programme's 2022 report, South Korea's PPP in 2021 was 0.925, placing it in a very high human development category, and ranking it at 19th out of 191 countries. This indicates an excellent level of human development with high level of education, a strong healthcare system, and also a high standard of living. The more important measure for an Australian firm looking to establish presence in South Korea will likely to be GNI and PPP, which indicates level of economic development. A high GNI indicates a strong economy with a high level of output and productivity. This implies a large potential market for a firm's goods and services. Furthermore, a rising GNI suggests economic growth and expansion, which can offer future opportunity for business growth. PPP provides a more accurate measure for the average standard of living or economic well-being of the population. South Korea's relatively high PPP indicates that its population has a good standard of living, which results in more disposable income and more spending on goods and services. This is a positive sign for firms looking to enter the market. These two measures show a picture of how South Korea's economic health and suggest that South Korea can be a profitable potential market or trading option. Here is my reference list, and I will hand it over to Yifei.
Okay, let me introduce question 3. Question 3 is talk about to compare the different culture from Korea and Australia. Australia is a multicultural society. We can see this picture and this picture. The first picture shows the first generation, second generation, third generation live in Australia. That means different people come to the Australian. According to the China people, Indian people, Korean people, Japanese people, and the second picture is show the cultural diversity. That means color is more deeper. That means the more cultural diversity. Australian culture diversity is not obvious, but it's a big gap compared to the South Korean. That's two picture prove the multicultural society for the Australian. So advantage for the Australian is united, strong, and successful, and diverge, and also a disadvantage is divergency. And Korea is a multicultural society. that means has a disadvantage. The main disadvantage is xenophobia. Yeah. Okay. So the second reason is come from the hospitality culture dimension. Australia is an individualism country. It's self-sufficiency and uniqueness and so on. And Australian usually encourages their family members to be independent and follow their personal aspiration. And Korea is a collective. Okay, so we can see the power distance. So Australia is a low power distance, and Korea is a higher power distance. And we can see the example. A piece of the literature said leadership begins with participation with a traditional value in Australia. That means Australia has a low power distance, and the Korean, we can see the example, the Samsung. Samsung is one of the famous South Korean chaebol. They control the majority of the South Korean market economic. And third reason is come from the elements of the culture. Australian it's a diverse and flexible education system, and however, Korea is focused on the rote learning and the language. Australians speak English because it's a low context. That means easy to communicate and easy to understand. Because Australian people a lot of people come from the China, Japanese, and so on. They need to communicate. So English is most useful, and Korean is high context. That means difficult to learn. So we can see that this picture shows the darker the color, the more widely used English is used. So Australian is deep green. So that means widely English used. Okay, the third reason is relationship culture cluster. Australian is an analogo cluster. It's because the same culture attributes the same historical culture. Main feature affect this country maybe these four reasons. And Korea is a Confucian Asian cluster. And may feature affect this country maybe these four parts. And I want to talk about the egalitarianism. For this picture, we can saw the egalitarianism from the different cluster. Analogo has a higher egalitarianism compared to the Confucian Asian cluster.
Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. My name is Haishang Li. Today my presentation topic is about what industry should South Koreans specialize in when looking to trade with other countries, and their government's intervention when engaging in international trade. The industry that South Koreans should specialize in when trading with other countries are consumer electronics, automobile, and integrated circuits. According to David Ricardo's theory, countries should specialize in production of those goods they can produce most efficiently, and buy goods they can produce less efficiently from other countries. South Korea clearly has comparative advantage in consumer electronics, automobile, and integrated circuit industry compared to Australia. First, the biggest Australia carbon, Holden, ceased all local production in 2017, and now all their production and parts are made abroad. Therefore, Australia now all depends on imported cars. The most popular car brands in Australia include Toyota, Mazda, Kia, Mitsubishi, and Hyundai. The Korean brands take the third and fifth places on the ranking. Even though Toyota has an absolute leading position with sales of 3 times more than Kia, Korean brands still have huge potential to gain more market share because of the wait time for Toyota. Due to the high demand, consumers will look at other options if they can get their new car sooner than Toyota. Second, the consumer electronic markets in Australia is also largely depends on foreign brands and imports. For the smartphone market, Apple has the biggest market share of 59.53%, while Samsung only holds 26.29%, but it is the only close competitor. However, Korean brands dominate some of the domestic electronic market in Australia. Samsung has continued 4-year winning streak as Australian best TV brand, while achieving highly commended award in refrigerator and microwave category. Finally, Australia is short of microchips and integrated circuit production and almost entirely depends on foreign technology. Korea has the potential to become Australia's biggest supplier in this production and technology. The top exports of South Korea are integrated circuits, cars, and refined petroleum. This shows that Korea has an advantage in technology and production within consumer electronics, automobile, and integrated circuit industry, and these are highly demanded by Australian markets. Therefore, Korea should specialize in consumer electronics, automobile, and integrated circuit industry when trade with Australia and other countries to utilize its comparative advantage of this production and maximize the benefit. On the other hand, the Korean government should also follow Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage when engaging in international trade. The government should use public policy to support industries when a comparative advantage exists. The comparative advantage has been identified in consumer electronics, automobile, and integrated circuit industry when trading with Australia, as these sectors are highly demanded by Australian markets and Korea can produce them most efficiently. There are a few key policies that Korean government can consider to utilize its comparative advantage. Policies such as encouraging domestic industry to specialize in this industry with tax breaks, subsidies, or target investment to support this industry. Eliminate or reduce tariffs, import quotas, and other trade barriers that restrict the flow of goods and services across borders. This will make Korean business more attractive on the international markets. Moreover, education, skill development, and research and development investment are also very critical for Korea to keep its comparative advantage and hold its leading position in the industry. By implementing the right policies that align with Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage, the Korean government can promote sustainable economic growth and maximize the benefit of international trade for the country. Thank you very much for your time, and here is my list of reference.
Hello, my name is Stephen, and I will be answering question 5 of this presentation. South Korea have employed numerous trade policy instruments, each of which serving a specific purpose in how South Korea trade with countries around the globe. One trade policy instrument South Korea have implemented is the use of tariffs, which is an important source of revenue for the economy, as tariffs on trade account for 6.5% of total taxes as of 2000. A decade later, dating back to 2010, South Korea's average tariff on non-agricultural goods is at 6.6%, which compared to a country like the USA is more than double. More recently, in 2020, South Korea's tariff rate was at 5.48%, indicating a 1.12% decrease over the last 10 years. The justification for these comparatively high tariffs is to stabilize consumer prices whilst simultaneously balancing the forces of supply and demand. Another trade policy instrument employed by South Korea is the use of subsidies. One example is the subsidy scheme for eco-friendly cars, which was introduced in 2021. The number of subsidies for electric vehicles was increased to 121,000 units from the previous year, where high performance and efficiency electric vehicles were bolstered to promote such vehicles. This subsidy also extends to public transportation, as buses, trains, and other relevant methods of transportation contribute to air pollution. Thus, public transportation and commercial vehicles received a combined subsidy of just over 400 million Korean won. Furthermore, extending from public transportation, the South Korean government have also added subsidies for electric vans as a means of assisting small and medium-sized organizations and enterprises. The South Korean government plans to take initiative by providing these enterprises with subsidies of 200 million Korean won for the fuel cell electric truck program. Through these subsidies, the South Korean government aims to, quote, achieve the popularization of eco-friendly cars and carbon neutrality in the transportation sector at an early stage. The Korea Trade Commission also set up its anti-dumping duty laws and decrees as part of its Agreement on Implementation of Article 6 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade 1994. In it are detailed outlines of how dumping is determined, which states that a product is considered to be dumped if the export price of the product exported from one country to another is less than the comparable price for the like product in the domestic market, as well as looking at how to reasonably assess whether a product is being dumped illegally and what mechanisms are being put in place to mitigate this. The decree refers to how dumped imports are also to be assessed in relation to the domestic production of the like product, and whether it can be seen as a threat of material injury, has a suppressing effect on domestic prices, results in an increased likelihood of significantly increased dumped export to the importing members market, and so on. It also further outlines the relevant evidence required in relation to the investigation process, where affected parties will be given 30 days to reply to an investigation and set out their defense. The international trade theories that align with the trade policy instruments can be seen through the lens of various theories, one such being mercantilism. A mercantilist economy is formed on the basis that a country's prosperity is increased through the implementation of restrictive trade practices. Extending from this, the high tariff rates are reflective of a mercantilist economy, where South Korea places heavy emphasis on exports as opposed to imports. Given that South Korea is so dependent on trade as a source of economic well-being, with it accounting for 70% of its total GDP, the country is quite powerless in the global marketplace, as many countries limit imports of South Korean goods, resulting in domestic shocks. South Korea also possesses a comparative advantage in its technology and design, differentiating themselves from countries such as China, who are more dominant in the manufacturing industry. Comparative advantage as an international trade theory focuses on how countries, in this case South Korea, specialize in production of goods produced the most efficiently and purchase goods they produce less efficiently in. South Korea is one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world and is a frontrunner in many areas such as mobile technology, electronics, and more. This is helped by the fact that the South Korean government invests over 4% of its total GDP into research and development, and is also driven by factors such as top-of-the-line education, STEM training, engineering, and more. It is with this comparative advantage that South Korea has over other countries, which make it a dominant force in the technology industry.